indirect expense, right? What's an example of indirect expense? Great, good. Depreciation expense. It could be both direct and indirect. Mostly it's direct, but it could be indirect too. Everybody should know the difference between program revenues and general revenues, right? One is for a specific program, the other is what? For all the activities. So you should understand the difference between the two. Program revenues are into these three different categories, which we just looked at, and understand the format. Got that? Right? We just looked at that. General revenues are always reported in the lower section of the statement. If I asked you a question about taxes, taxes are always what? General revenue, right? Okay. Actually, let's do one thing. Let's take a look at a question in the book. See if you... Okay, I'm going to... see this question 3-4? I want you to take a look at it and tell me if it's program revenues or general revenues. Okay, we'll start off. The first question. Unrestricted operating grants that can be used at the discretion of the city council. Not for any function, but for anything. What would it be? Excellent. Next one, capital grants for highway construction. Excellent. Next one, charges for building inspection. Program for building inspections, right? Good. Special assessment for snow removal. Excellent. Fines and forfeits. Well, actually, you know what? The answer that you gave me is the answer which most people who do not know this would answer. But GASB has decided to put fines and forfeits, believe it or not, as charges for services. Very strange, but it's an exception, okay? I'm not surprised listening to that answer because a lot of people are confused. And you read that in the book, by the way. It's program revenues. How about motor vehicle fuel taxes? Now, this is the key. Anytime you hear the word taxes, always general revenue. It doesn't matter what it says, general revenue. If it's taxes of any kind, it's general revenue. How about unrestricted investment earnings? General, because it's what? Unrestricted for anything. Did you have a question in the back there? Yes, because there is a rule, we've all agreed in government that any kind of taxes will always be classified as general taxes, even if it's for a specific purpose. If they are taxes, they are general revenues. Okay? All right, so you did pretty good. Well, in this case, let's keep on going. Let's take a look at definition of two other items. These are two items, and you probably saw this, extraordinary item, and I'd like you to understand the definition of these two. I will ask you this question in the exam. Difference between extraordinary and special item, okay? And if I forget, remind me in the exam that I told you that I was going to ask you, okay? All right? But the reason is that if you recall in the statement of activities, at the bottom, we saw these two items. So let me give you an example. There was a government in Florida. There's a local government in Florida, and there's a hurricane. Comes and does a lot of damage to government buildings. It's not an art. So the question is it an extraordinary event or not an extraordinary event? Or is it a special item? So let's take a look at extraordinary items. By the way, extraordinary items are mostly costs that government incur. Something that happens, which is not normal, okay? Both unusual in nature and infrequent in occurrence. Are hurricanes in Florida unusual in nature and infrequent? No. Okay. Now, let's turn around and come to New Jersey. Hurricane Sandy. How would you classify that? Is it extraordinary or not extraordinary? How many people say extraordinary? A majority of the, and how many people say otherwise, ordinary, because if it's not extraordinary, it's what? Ordinary. It's actually extraordinary because it's not, even though it could happen, but it doesn't meet that definition. It has to be unusual in nature and infrequent in occurrence beyond the control of management, right? Let's take a look at special items. These are either unusual or infrequent, but are within the control of management. What could be an item like that? Well, we looked at the cost side. Let's take a look at the revenue side. And this is an interesting story. About 10 years ago, we had a governor in New Jersey, actually a treasurer in New Jersey, who decided the state was running short on money. So they decided, how do we balance our budget? You know, there's a stretch of 95 from where the New Jersey Turnpike finishes to George Washington Bridge. There's a section of 95. And they said, well, what we're going to do is the state of New Jersey is going to sell that stretch of 95 to the New Jersey Turnpike so that they could put a, you know, if they decided to, they could put a toll. Why did they want to do that? So that they could get revenue from where? From the New Jersey Turnpike, so that they could then balance the budget. Now, how do you show the revenue that comes in to the state for a transaction like that? First of all, is it unusual and infrequent? You don't sell toll roads you don't sell roads every day, so it's unusual, but it is within the control of management, right? Management had control over that sale. So it's kind of an interesting example, but an example right from New Jersey. So you will find examples of this, and you must know how to distinguish them. Okay. So what's at the